Welcome to Purpose Driven Sobriety. Welcome to Purpose Driven Sobriety. My name is Christine and I am an alcoholic. I want to thank Miss Rachel Sherrill for sponsoring today's episode. Rachel is a good friend to people in recovery, and she's very active in participating and supporting recovery. And I thank you, Miss Rachel Sherrill, for sponsoring this episode today. I have a new friend. We've been talking for a couple of weeks now. Chris V. Chris and I met on a recovery page, kind of, sort of. But you run a Facebook page that is very inspirational. And you've got a little bit of a following, a little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
You think? But he had posted something, and I'm sure I can't remember what dumbass comment I made or something, but we started a little dialogue about recovery, and I didn't know by your Facebook page, because the Facebook page is called Motion. That's MOTION, Motion. So be sure to look that up. And that you post daily and sometimes throughout the day just some good tidbits to remind us who we are, where we came from, and where our power comes from, and what have you. But you agreed to come on to the show because we have a shared. What's the word, Chris? We have a shared concern about how recovery is sometimes presented on the internet as far as, social media and stuff like that goes. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for agreeing to come on to the show. I really am grateful to you.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. And as you said, I do run a page, Motion for Recovery, and interesting story behind that. 2018 is when I started that, and throughout my endeavors as an alcoholic, we ended up losing everything and being in a homeless shelter. And I started Motion for Recovery on the Obama phone using Wi-Fi because I didn't have internet, I didn't have anything. And one thing that I noticed about recovery being portrayed on social media, it seemed like it was all glam. I called it glam recovery.
So is that what made you start the page? I mean, because I'm curious what your thinking was. Were you active just on social media beforehand?
A little bit, but in my recovery, I wanted to take all the tools that were available to me, not just AA, but surrounding myself with good people, going to church, talking with others, volunteering. I think recovery has to be a well-rounded.
Sure.
I don't think you can just I visualize it as a triangle, that you need a good foundation on all 3 points in order to be successful in recovery. And since social media is so prominent in everyone's lives, I just wasn't seeing any encouragement on social media. It was all glam. It was all people that were, and good for them. They're like, after 3 days, and they're holding up peace signs, and I feel so great, man. After 30 days, I couldn't take a proper shit right or even think straight.
And I still wanted to, not so much, but I still wanted to kill myself or kill someone else around me. I mean, I was, hanging on.
Yeah, I just didn't see a platform where people were really talking about what happens in
the
recovery.
reality.
It's not all fluffy puppy dogs and glam and that's great and everything, but I also think that can be dangerous for somebody that is just starting out in recovery and they're not plugged into the recovery community in real life.
Right. And then they think they're doing something wrong or it's not going to work for them, and Lord only knows what happens to them. But yeah, the reality
and then they're right back out. And today's different than it was 30 years ago. People die.
Man.
And we've lost. I've lost count of how many people we've lost in the past 2 years, and it's scary. I don't like to say to somebody that, well, if you don't like it, go back out, and well, people go back out and they die.
They never come back. Yep.
They don't come back. They're not going to come back. We always say keep coming back. Well, some people they're not going to be coming back. And it's a very dangerous world out there today with the drugs and the alcohol and just the scene that's out
right
on the streets today. It's not like it was 20 years ago.
Well, I got to tell you, one of the things that I noticed, because you've got, and I don't know if I'm in a building that I don't know if I can pull it up. How many followers do you have on Motion right now?
I have 267,000 followers, and each week I reach about 31 million people.
There you go. So, and I'm in, I don't know how many recovery pages, that I'll dip into or contribute to or what have you. But I got to tell you, 9 out of 10 of the ones that I'm in, and I've not witnessed this at all in Motion, in the Motion page. But on so many of those sites, there are such assholes in recovery that someone will post, I'm a month sober and I can't stop thinking about, alcohol or whatever their vice is. And people will attack them. I mean, and basically say, well, if you were doing what you're supposed to do, or, just instead of having compassion and remembering what it was like at that stage of their recovery. And usually it's what we call in recovery world, old timers, that have some time under their belt that quite frankly should know better, that are shaming these newbies because they're having normal reality symptoms of early recovery.
Yes, absolutely. And what we don't hear about is, okay, how are people supposed to live in recovery and deal with everyday shit that happens every day? Like, just because you had stopped drinking and you hear an old timer, well, you need to read the big book. Well, when I got sober in 2016, this wasn't my first round in AA. I've been in AA since the mid 90s, and I've done the steps and I've read the big book, and I wanted to say, I want to shove that big book up your ass. I need to know what I need to do how do I deal with this?
How do I make it through how do I make it through the next couple of hours? I mean, just, let alone a day. And I remember sitting at a recovery table and just thinking, there is no possible way that a fucking book could solve the kind of problem. I was going through seizures whenever I would try to stop drinking. And so you're telling me I just need to get the book and I just need to read a book? Bullshit. There is no. I needed a medical procedure. I needed a team of doctors. I needed something. I didn't have a clue what it was, but it sure the hell wasn't read a book. And it just man, there's so many. That's what I love about your page, is that it's not unrealistic fluff. I don't see in the comments, I have not witnessed shaming or, it's almost bullying on some. And I got to tell you, there's one page, and you and I will talk off mic, about that one. But there's one page, and they actually sponsored a show early on of Purpose Driven Sobriety, and I love the guy who started it, but it's almost gotten out of control to where it's gotten so big that he can't police everybody, but just the awful things, people leaving the page just because they're they feel like they're being shamed for having real reactions early on in recovery.
Well, what it comes down to is I don't think people should rely on social media as their main cornerstone of recovery. And that's what we're seeing, because we have a whole generation of individuals in their early 20s, late teens, sometimes even early 30s, that they grew up on social media. This is how they communicate with the rest of the world, is via social media, and it's an unrealistic expectation. You need to be with a real person. You need to talk with a real person. You need to talk with somebody that has been going through this. You need to talk with somebody that's built their life from nothing, got their license back, took care of all the bullshit and the consequences that came with it, and dealt with staying sober, and have that as your mentor, not a social media page. And
And then
And
and
that's
then
what I see in social media.
right, and then you throw 2020 on top of that, where liquor stores were essential, but we weren't permitted to go to recovery meetings.
Right.
So which I'm grateful that Zoom was a thing, and I'm grateful Zoom is a thing now. I'm with you on Zoom. You're in California, right? I'm in Texas.
Yeah.
So this is a beautiful way for you and I to have an eye-to-eye conversation. But just like you said, Chris, the program of recovery was not meant to be done through a screen. It was meant to be knee to knee, soul to soul, guts to guts, not filtered through a screen, and albeit that I believe that social media and whatnot is a tool. I think it is a tool but I think when you go into it as far as contributing, not trying to get your recovery out of it, but contributing what you're learning for the next person who's, behind you coming up in recovery.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't see any pages that people are just raw and honest.
Nope.
And I've gotten banned from several major sobriety pages just because I've been raw and honest about that. They've actually banned me. Because sometimes I can be a little too, I can be harsh with my rawness and my honesty when I speak.
Right.
And sometimes that doesn't go over very well with a lot of people. A lot of times people don't want to hear that. They want to hear the amens and the keep coming back and the congratulations, and instead of saying, "Hey, are you plugged into anybody? Have you called anybody?"
Right. Have you been to a meeting?
What city? I've even gone as far as saying, "Well, what city are you from?" and look up all the AA meetings.
Look up intergroups. Yep. I've done the same thing.
Just call. Just get somebody. Somebody will call you back.
Yeah.
And give you connections to go meet for some coffee. And people don't want to hear that. A lot of people don't want to hear that. They want an easier, softer way.
Right. And there's no such thing. And it's killing people. It's killing people.
There isn't. And my story is a lot like yours. I ended up in the hospital for 11 days in the ICU because I had a seizure. I tried to quit drinking, and after a couple, probably 8-9 hours after my last drink, I had a seizure and ended up in the hospital.
Yeah, and that's not where you needed someone to go, keep coming back, or have you been at a meeting?
Yeah, I already knew that. Like I said, I had been in, multiple rehabs. I've been in AA, and I knew exactly what I did. When I fell off that wagon 2 years before that, a lot of people say, I don't know what happened. I'll call them out on that bullshit. You know exactly what happened. We're not stupid. We're not stupid.
We don't have time. Yeah, we don't have time for those games anymore.
No. When I went and I got that first bottle, I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew exactly where it would lead to, and frankly, I didn't give a rat's ass. And I knew how it was going to end. In the back of my mind, I'm like, this is not going to end well, and I did it anyway. I mean, so when people say, I don't know what happened. Yeah,
you do. You're just not willing to admit it. And you know what? That reminds me, Chris. Early on, within the first month or two in one of the recovery rooms, someone had said, what does they say? The definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. No. He said, and I remember who said it. He said, the definition of insanity in my world is doing the same thing over and over again, knowing what's going to happen and doing it anyway.
Right.
That is the guts of addiction and the disease of addiction. I mean, you on a soul level, what's going to happen, but it's like it's cunning, baffling, and powerful. You can't, left to your own devices, you can't control it.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing, what I don't hear pages talk about, and I'm sure you've heard about this post-acute withdrawal syndrome. And this was something that I didn't hear this discussed until 2016 when we had started going to meetings and different support groups. And I didn't hear about this in the early 2000s and in the 90s. And I didn't know what post-acute withdrawal syndrome was. And people still don't talk about that. And when you talk about it on these sober pages, you get hated on.
Right.
And
So
you don't know
for people that are
why
listening,
we don't talk about it.
right. So for people that are listening, which believe it or not, I do have, we do have a lot of listeners that aren't one of us, but they're still getting some good stuff out of the show. So for people who don't understand what that is, define that for them.
Post-acute withdrawal syndrome is, how I think about it is how long it takes your brain to normalize the normal chemicals that you should be having in your brain. And it's going to be a roller coaster. Sometimes it can take up to a year, sometimes 2 years before your brain chemistry finally normalizes back to what it was before you started drinking
or drugging.
And it will go in cycles. A lot of times you hear the 90-day mark. That's the in AA. I always heard your 3 month
90
is
days, 90 meetings in 90 days.
The crucial period. Well, there's a reason behind that, because that's when you've reached that pink cloud, and now those chemicals will start to go down, and they actually will dip down, and you can go into a depression, moodiness, and you're more likely to relapse at that 3 month mark. And that's one of the symptoms of post-acute withdrawal. And it takes a while. And I'm not saying that to scare off people that are in recovery. You have to realize you didn't do this damage to your brain in 30, 60, 90 days. It's going to take a minute.
Well,
it's
and when
take a minute for everything to get back to normal.
Right. And when you, but that's what I love about you, Chris, is you're willing to talk about it, because for the person who is out there, who's at 45 days or 60 days, and they are on what's called, we in recovery, we call it the pink cloud, where, all the world seems to be going great now. It's going great. I'm sober. And it's like, okay, but life is going to continue to do life. And odds are something's going to happen. When you know that there's a possibility that you could have these feelings after 90 days, and when they happen, maybe they aren't quite as profound. When you've acknowledged that that's a possibility, and you're aware of it, is, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't aware of that. And then all of a sudden, life kicks your ass, and all of a sudden you drop, your emotions swing a lot more than what they were if you were normalized. And we don't talk about that.
And all of a sudden,
AA doesn't talk about that at all.
And all of a sudden, the program doesn't work. And it's like, no, the program does work. It does work. This is a normal thing you're going through. The program, that's where they keep coming back. It's like, no, I just need you to hang on. You're just in a little bitty season. This too will suck, but this too will pass. Just hang tight. It's going to, keep doing the deal. The program does work. But you're right. So many people who are unaware of that feeling that can possibly, happen, that is so real, that sends so many people out claiming that recovery doesn't work.
Right. And it's amazing when you work with somebody and you explain the post-acute and you explain what's coming up, and you can explain why they're feeling this way, and then say, just keep coming back, just keep hanging on. This isn't forever.
Right.
You gotta ground people. You have to remind them. Sometimes people just want validation. They want validation, not go home and read your big book.
Right. That's when you need to hold on to the program the most, is when you have those feelings, and get with your people, get with your into the meetings. Hopefully you're smart enough, i.e. I was not, to have gotten a sponsor by then and be doing some work where the sponsor can walk with you through those feelings and remind you that this is a normal process of coming out of this, the acute part of the disease. But yeah, that's, man, isn't it amazing how you can just go back, like it's like the Twilight Zone. You can go back there in a second, those feelings of just despair, thinking briefly that the program didn't work, and it's not working for me. It may work for all of those people, but it's not working for me, when in reality I was just simply feeling the normal cycle of recovery.
Right. We were very blessed. First couple of years into our sobriety, we attended a meeting every Saturday. It was called Sober Support. And this was on top of all the AA meetings that we had attended. And during this meeting, we talked about stuff like this. We talked about post-acute. It wasn't AA centered. If you wanted to talk about AA, that was great. If you wanted to talk about a doorknob as your higher power, that was also good. There was no shaming. It was popcorn style. You brought everything to the table and it was real and it was raw. And that helped a lot of people. And that was on top of, going to AA. But what we had discussed in sober support, it was almost like it was taboo in AA. And AA, no one wanted to talk about the post-acute or the medical side of this disease. And it is a disease.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And it's chronic. It's chronic, meaning it never, the disease itself never goes away. You can control the symptoms, with what I call the medicine, which is working a program. For me, it's the program. But yeah, you stop taking the medicine and those symptoms come back. How much time do you have now?
September 18th, 2016 was my last drink.
Got it.
So I'll be coming upon 7 years in September.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
The obsession to drink is gone. It was different this time. When I got out of the hospital, I was a completely changed man. I had completely surrendered to God this time. And I'd never done that before. I thought I had, but it's, being close to death changes your perspective immensely.
I imagine.
Like completely. I mean, this time I got it. I'm listening. Wow. Loud and clear.
Wow.
So I'm grateful for that. I didn't have any cravings, no obsession. And I know I can't drink again. I mean, there's certain lines that we cross in our addiction. And this is one that I can't cross again. I'm not going to make it back.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Me neither.
Yeah. There were, how many years did I say, well, I'll never drink in the morning? And pretty soon, what am I doing? I'm drinking in the morning because I can't function.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to when you started Motion. You said you were homeless. So were you just wanting a place to contribute things you were learning at the time, or what was your motivation behind starting the Motion page?
I just wanted, the original motive behind that was to get some money coming in so that we could help support the homeless shelter. I wanted to help with the meals monthly, to be able to have it something catered in for the homeless shelter, because each week churches will sign up and give meals, daily meals, 7 days a week. And there were many times during the week that we didn't have a meal. Nobody catered anything in.
Oh, wow.
And so after I had gotten out and, I had gotten a job, we would just call up and have something catered in for all, 40 or 20, 30, whoever was in the shelter, we'd have a meal catered in. And so one of the reasons why I had originally started Motion was to try to build up a following and get donations so that we could do that for them each month. And people don't like to give money like that.
Yeah.
And so it just turned into just daily encouragement. And it's all Christian based. I'm all about God on Motion.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I will mention recovery. There's a significant amount of recovery that is on Motion, but I try to keep the recovery, what I call the recovery drama and bullshit, out of it. I don't want that in Motion. Motion's a safe place to where if you open up Motion, you're going to get a daily dose of hope.
Right.
We had people encourage us, and that's what I try to do on Motion.
Well, and just by the following, it's clear that you've accomplished.
Yeah.
That. You have accomplished. And what was behind? When we had an initial phone conversation a couple of weeks ago, remind me where the name came from for the page.
Motion, to be God's hands and feet, requires motion.
There you go.
And I think that's very important. I tell people, if you want to see miracles, go to a homeless shelter, volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to see miracles, go to a detox ward and talk to some people that are grateful to be alive.
Right.
You have to love people where people are at.
Right.
Some of the most profound conversations I've ever had have been standing in line for soup kitchens,
Wow.
talking with the individuals that were in there. Some of the most gracious people. I mean, I stood in line at a soup kitchen one time and we didn't have any cigarettes. And here was this guy. He didn't have nothing. What he did have was he had a bag of tobacco and some papers, and he rolled up about 20 cigarettes and gave it to us. Just, he didn't have anything. And he was like, yeah, I can give you some cigarettes. And that touched me right there. I'm like, here's a guy here that has less than what I have,
And he's
and
willing to share.
he's giving me something, and he's happy about it, and he's happy, and he seems content, and everybody's smiling and talking, and I'm like, that I want that.
Mm.
And they don't have anything, and that's what struck me is all the stuff, all the bullshit that I've had
material.
throughout my whole life, and the most content that I can ever remember has been having those conversations when we didn't have anything. And
Right.
that taught me right there that stuff can't bring you happiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's the lack thereof, and all kinds of different people killing themselves trying to obtain
Yes,
those
yes,
material things, and again, that's why a lot of people drink and drug, from the
yep,
stress of it and the weight of it all.
yeah. They're trying to fill something that is not going to fill.
So what would you say would be, for the person who's white knuckling it, that's seeking advice on social media and what have you? What would you say to that person?
I would say that they need to get plugged into a recovery community to not just solely rely on social media.
Yeah,
Social media is good to pass the time, but that doesn't take place of an actual live human being. It doesn't take place to somebody picking you up and having coffee and talking with you and say, "Listen, I know what you're going through. I hear you."
well, and listening to you without judgment.
Yeah, because you're not going to get that on social media. Social media is colored for the likes and the traffic, and you're not going to find what you're looking for on social media.
Well, and most of the time, you're not going to find it in your own household or in your own family.
No, you really need to pick up that phone and get in contact with somebody. You need to get plugged in, people, places, and things.
Mm-hmm.
You can't escape that on social media. That's what I think a lot of people don't understand is in recovery, you have to change people, places, and things.
Right.
And picking up that phone isn't going to change the people and places and things.
Well, and staying behind that computer screen or that phone or iPad or whatever that you're on social media is not going. There's so many people that I know that have come into the rooms, in where I am, that tried to do the Zoom meetings and they stayed drunk and drugged. I mean, it's like that's not how the program was intended to be worked.
No. Life is still out there. Life doesn't stop because you're hiding on social media. Life is still out there, and in order to be successful in recovery, you have to learn how to navigate real life, not social media.
And real people, and real people.
Real people.
There's still. I mean, there's still a good number of people. Yeah, I've got basically 2 home groups. Still, a good number of people that haven't returned. That I'm doing Zoom these days, and I'm just thinking, okay, to each his own. But
right.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you're doing it. I couldn't do it. I mean, I got to tell you, it was about 2 weeks after they, air quote, shut the country down, and Rick and I, my husband and I, own a building here in Waco. We have people that lease space, and I have a conference room that I host. I host a women's meeting there every Saturday. And so we had to, because at the time, in that moment, it was the right thing to do to shut the building down because we didn't know what was happening. I mean, we just didn't have a clue. And so there went 2 Saturdays or so without meetings. And Rick came and sat down beside me one morning and had tears in his eyes. And he said, "You have to do something." And I kind of looked at him. I said, what are you talking about? And he said, you've got to somehow get meetings going. I'm worried about you. I haven't been this scared for you since before you got sober. And that was just a ton of bricks that hit me. And I thought, shit, if he's seeing that in me, clearly I was not seeing it in myself, and the disease was coming right back. And so I got on the phone and did a mass text to all the girls, and I said, here's the deal. I will be there at 10:30 this morning. I would rather die in your presence than die without having my support. I have to get with you people. We have to be there for each other. And so that meeting, I think, quite frankly, even to date, had the most women in it because everybody just needed that contact, you know. And it killed a lot of people too, not being able to, you know, participate in their recovery.
It did. I tried the Zoom for a little bit, and it just wasn't the same
at all. At all. Yeah, I copped a huge resentment towards Zoom. As a matter of fact, I canceled my subscription, you know, shortly after that, and I thought, fuck that.
Right.
We have got to get back in person. I mean, we need each other. We need eye contact. We need to breathe the same air. There's just something magical about being with people that understand you. You know, which is what I searched for my entire life. And I found that in the rooms of recovery. I found my people for the first time in my life. I found where I belonged. And that was basically, you know, to no one's fault, but in 2020 was taken away from us for a brief period of time.
Right.
You know, and some people have now, and again, it's just my opinion. You're welcome to agree or disagree as you so choose. But I think some people are using that as a crutch now to just, you know, just kind of, I don't know what they're doing. I think they're using it as a crutch to stay out of the rooms, you know, of recovery.
Well, a lot of people in addiction are isolationists.
Right.
And it's really, really easy to isolate, and you know, I can even do that. Mm-hmm. And I get comfortable with that. I get complacent with that, where, you know, I don't want to go out, and I have to make myself go out. And that's real easy. And I think the pandemic shed a light on how easy that is to do and how hard it is to get back out when things open back up. Mm-hmm. I mean, even today here in San Jose, you know, when we moved here, I wasn't plugged into the recovery community, and I'm trying to get plugged back into it. I haven't found, quote, my people yet.
Right.
And that's going to require going to different meetings until I find my people.
So, you know what? Let's talk about that real quick, because I don't think we've talked about that on the show. What is that? Because I know that there's going to be people that are in that exam that don't have almost 7 years, that are new, that you know, they tried a meeting and they either felt like they didn't belong, or they for whatever reason. Let's so go into that a little bit more about what do you mean?
Yes, there's a lot of the meetings that I've gone to here in San Jose. They do it a little different here in California. They have somebody speak for like 15 minutes, and then they have people go up to the podium and comment. And two of the meetings that I've gone to, whoever's speaking, they call on their buddies. It's not like you can raise your hand. And so it's the same people, it's the same cronies, the same old timers, and you feel ostracized.
Yeah. Or you feel left out.
And it's defeating.
Yeah.
There's been a couple other meetings that I've gone to in downtown San Jose, and it's kind of in a sketchy part of town, but these are more my people. And you just have to keep going to different meetings, and you have to try it. It's like, think of it going to a grocery store. If you've got 20 grocery stores to choose from, there's going to be some of them that you just don't like the way they're set up.
Right.
You don't like the way that they're run. You don't like the way that they're looked. And you find one that you like, and you keep going back to that. I think that's the same way with AA meetings, that if you have a lot of meetings to choose from, try them out, sample
find
them.
One that fits.
Go to the ones that find that fit, that the people will actually come up and introduce themselves, and you have a good feeling when they introduce. It's not you're not getting a robot that is just shaking your hand. Hey, how you doing? They'll actually say, how are you doing?
Right. Well, or even go a step farther and ask for your phone number. But
Right.
hopefully it's women to women, men to men. That's I do believe in that. But they want to. What I hear you saying, Chris, is they're genuinely interested in
Yes.
you being
Yes.
there. Now, I think you also have to be cautious to not expect rainbows and unicorns to pop out of the table at meetings. You're still in a recovery meeting, so you're not supposed to feel 100% comfortable for a minute, right? But
Right.
as long as you don't feel, just like you said, ostracized or left out, and I think at least what I encourage people to do, newbies, well, for Al-Anon, and I don't go to Al-Anon, but I have family members that have and need to. But I encourage, go to 6 meetings, and I pulled that out of my butt. I don't know why, but go to 6 meetings and then judge it. You might have caught it on an off day. Give it a couple of chances, a couple of tries before you decide that's just not for me. Because yeah, you're exactly right. There's several. We've got a bunch of meetings. There's a lot of recovery in Waco, Texas, and there's just some meetings that I feel more at home, with than others. I mean, that's just a personal preference, but that doesn't
Yes.
mean the program doesn't work if you're not. Because I love it. One of the guys in my original home group, he says this is not Well People's Anonymous, right? You're coming
Right.
into a room of sick ass people, so you can't expect everybody to be on their absolute best behavior manner wise and all of that. I mean, you're still coming into a room with alcoholics and addicts that but it's you got to keep trying them on until you find the one that fits, and not use that. What I'm trying to say is not use that as an excuse to not stay seated,
Right. Right.
to not go into a meeting and
Right.
sit
You got to
all the way down.
you got to give it a chance.
Yeah, if you want the benefits of it.
Yeah, like in real life, we're not going to like everybody that we meet. No, not everybody's going to be our best friends.
Mm-hmm.
How many people do you know, and how many people would you consider, close friends? And I'm sure it's a significant number. And it's the same way with AA meetings. If you have a lot of meetings to choose from, shop around a little bit, find which one that feels right for you, that's helpful for you.
And claim your chair.
Yes.
Your chair. Because you have just as much right to have your ass in one of those chairs than anybody else sitting in there. And
Absolutely.
literally, if you're anything like me and what it sounds like with you, Chris, too, your life depends on it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And you're, and to go even further, 11 years later for me, my joy, my peace, and my happiness depends on me not, feeling comfortable in a meeting and continuing to do recovery, because I get to do this for the rest of my life.
Right.
And I'm so grateful for that.
I'm at the point now where if I get the opportunity to speak at the meeting, I'm just real and raw. And what I've noticed is the people that speak before me are all big book pounders and fluffers, and I'll get up there and I'll throw down F-bombs, and I'll tell you exactly how this is. And what I've noticed is everybody that speaks after me are more real and raw after they hear me being real and raw.
Right. Well,
and that's what I try to bring to the meetings, is that, we're not up here to quote slogans out of the big book and feel good stuff out of the big book, and be real and raw. That's what this is all about. This is what's going to help people, because that's what everybody is going through at that moment.
Well, and haven't you, I mean, at least for me, haven't you found that having that type of mentality to just talk about the way it is? I mean, I don't catastrophize, but I also don't glamorize. It's just the way it is.
It is.
And there's no reason to go into acting mode, and there's no reason to go into Glinda the Good Witch mode. They're just tell it like it is, and yeah, like I said, that's one of the things that I appreciate about you.
Yeah, being real and raw that's what's going to help somebody. Not quoting stuff out of the big book when deep and down inside you just want to say, "Motherfucker, I want to smash shit right
Right,
now.
right.
I'm not happy. I'm pissed off and I'm angry at you. I'm angry at the world. I'm angry at this
What do I
goddamn
do with
TV."
that? Because I can't drink and
Yeah,
drug it away.
yeah. Now what do I do with this bullshit?
Mm-hmm.
Instead
Mm-hmm.
of quoting a paragraph out of the big book and smiling when deep down inside you want to smash something.
Right. Well, and
You
hope
know, that's being
again.
real and raw.
Right. Well, and again, hopefully that's where for me it was. It took a major relapse for me because I had been attending meetings and I did not get a sponsor because I'm smart, right? I can the steps were up on the wall. I could read them, and I did not get that sponsor. And before I know it, my last drunk was a Sam-sized bottle of Listerine. So
Listerine.
it was bad. Yeah, oh, dude, it was real bad.
Yeah, I've done the Listerine
Yeah,
program.
it was bad. But then I quickly, got a sponsor, and that was the big difference because she's still my sponsor today, thank God. And I think that all of my answers are in that book, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I believe that all of the answers to my problems are in that book, but I couldn't understand it. I couldn't that early on, and it took her to read a sentence to me and go, now what this means to you is, and put it
Right.
in a way that I could understand it, and then refer me back to that was on page 58 or whatever the case may be, so that it was like feed what is this feed a man to teach a man to fish. Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. She was teaching me what was in the book, but she, to help save my life, she was telling me what it meant because I just didn't have the brain power to understand it at that point in
Right.
time in my recovery. I was incapable of stopping the madness in my head long enough to even comprehend what that meant. Just to leave me alone with a book. If she would have done that, she'd have killed me.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Just the clarity. It was 7, 8 months before my head even started to clear up.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd be sitting talking to people, and all of a sudden I would look up at the ceiling, and I'm looking at the conduit, and I'm glitching out, and that happened for 6, 7 months after I stopped drinking. It took a long time for the fog to clear out of my head. And that's what I want people to understand is the longer that you drink, the longer it's going to take for that fog to lift. And if you don't stop, man, you could end up with wet brain. It may never come
Oh
back.
man, I've met. I luckily in my life I've only met one person. That was when I was in treatment. Yeah, that was a, oh my gosh, that was devastating to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And they will never be the same. They are never going to get better. And that's a line that, you're risking if you have this disease and you keep drinking.
Mm-hmm.
You risk that you're not going to come back from that.
One of the things recently that became very concerning to me on especially one specific recovery page that, there were, I've seen over the past recent couple of months, several people say, I'm 3 days, I'm 3 days sober, yay me. And I graze through the comments, and I don't see a single person saying, are you alone? Do you have someone near you? Because that's primarily when DTs and seizures can also start.
Yes.
Alcohol being the only drug that can kill you when you try to stop using it. Even a few days later, and just like you said, talking about the other symptoms that could go on for weeks, months, into another year even. But but no one is giving them the warnings. And it's like, why would you, they were happy and celebrating. Why would, it's like, because I'm freaking trying to tell them the truth. Don't be
Right.
alone during this time. Have someone, go stay with someone, until you know at least that you've got some type of a handle on it. Make sure your doctor knows. Make sure the people that are close to you know to check on you. Nobody's telling people these things.
No, they're not. And you almost get shamed when you
Exactly.
try to tell people that this is dangerous. Trying to detox, depending on how many lines that you cross, it's dangerous to detox by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why they've got treatment centers, to medically.
Well, that's why there's a medical detox.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, what kind of program do you work today? Do you live out in California?
I do.
Yeah. What was the do you still attend the program you were talking about?
Yeah. I still I don't go to as many meetings as what I probably should with the work that I do, but I do my prayer in the morning. I post a motion. I get up pretty much at 3:30 every morning.
Oh my goodness.
Do my post. I listen to my Jesus music, say my prayers, get my post set up for the whole day. And I try to keep my life as simple as I can today. No bullshit, no drama. It takes work to keep things simple.
Right.
And I try to simplify my life as much as I can today. I don't like things complicated. I don't like drama.
Well, I appreciate what you contribute as far as, and like I said, it was funny because I remember when I first reached out to you, I had seen a lot of faith-based posts on Motion. I hadn't gone way back, but I didn't see anything specifically talking about recovery. But I remember private messaging you going, okay, dude, you've got to be in recovery. Am I seeing that right? Because I feel like you're talking my language. And
I'll sneak some recovery talk in there now and again, because there's a lot of people that are in recovery on Motion. But I try not to make it too up in your face, just because I want to keep the recovery bullshit off of Motion. It's an encouragement page.
Right. It's a solution.
And it's a good place for somebody that is in recovery that just wants some encouragement, that just wants some validation. Yep. It's a safe spot where nobody's going to judge you, and I will ban your ass if you start drama on my page, and there's no questions. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to message you. I'll just ban you.
Right.
I have filters set up that, you can't talk about politics. I mean, the filters on my page, I spend a lot of time setting up those filters to get rid of the scammers and the people that are, the witch doctors that want to try to post on my page, and none of that gets through. And I update that at least once a week, because that's a safe spot.
Right.
I don't tolerate any of that on Motion.
Well, just the reminders, just the reminders. Be sure to go in and like and follow Motion, because even just popping on to social media when you're sitting in a doctor's office just waiting, whenever you're able to just pop on and seeing a reminder that, you're not in control, or, you're going to make it through this day, or, all of the different things that just remind you that you're not alone, that just the hope, that's what.
And I did incognito Motion. There isn't too many people that know that I actually run Motion. I've kept that very low key over the years, and that's because that glory goes to God, not me.
Amen. Well, and that's
I've really tried to work hard to keep the identity of who's behind Motion incognito, just for that fact is, I'm an alcoholic. I'll always be an alcoholic. Do I want the accolades? You're damn straight I do. I want all the credit. I want all the glory. And I have to remind myself that it's not my glory. It's not my glory. So the best way to do that is to not basically divulge who is behind Motion.
Right. Well, I appreciate the fact that you were willing at this point in time, because I think it's all I 150% hear what you're saying, because I feel the same way about purpose driven sobriety.
Right. And you and I have
This
talked about that
this
a little
was,
bit.
yeah, this was not my idea. It came down to, I ain't paying for it, because I knew that I would make it about me, because I'm still just as selfish and self-centered as I was 11 years ago
Yes.
if I'm not careful. And so now the only I say disadvantage is that I have to be a part of it, in the sense that it's my voice, or in this case, the video as well. But it's hard, dude. It's hard not to make it about me.
It is. It is.
It really is, to just, so when someone goes, "Oh, I'm so proud of you," there is this little tinge of guilt that I feel, that it's like, don't give me that, because I'll take it. I will take all
Right.
those accolades, and I will, puff up my chest, and I'll take all of that credit, when in my world, God's going, that's mine.
Absolutely.
Stay out of the way if you want to watch all the cool I don't think God's saying if you want to see all the cool shit happen, but if I want to see all the cool shit happen, I have to keep my hands off of it, and
Right.
that's hard. Gosh, dog, that's hard.
It is. It's a hard line, and I struggled with that until about a year ago, and then I decided that, well, it's okay for people to know that I run Motion. It's not okay for me to take that for my own self-centered ambitions.
Well, I think it's also important, Chris, that they see that you're just a guy. You're
Yeah.
not, you're not some CEO or Fortune 500 Facebook guru sitting in a $1 million house, and which maybe in California you are, but in Texas, you know what I mean. But that you're just a guy. You're just as fallible as they are. You have the same problems. But you're doing such a great thing that so many people are benefiting, and God is using you. That's where it's such a different kind of pride, because I have such pride in the show Purpose Driven Sobriety, but it's not a pride that I own. Right? It's a pride that I'm just so proud that God saw fit to use me to do whatever he's going to do with this. And that's what I see you doing with Motion. It's like, I'm going to suit up.
I've never done anything like this before. I've never gone on a podcast. I've never reached out to any pages. And so I'm very grateful that God put us together. Hopefully in the future, we can do more of this and have more topics.
Oh, 100%.
And I'm grateful to see where God takes this.
Right. You know what? I think that souls, and I don't want to get too deep here, but I do anyway. I think that souls just crave honesty and truth, and
Right.
just real. They crave that. They may not know it, but they crave it. And when they see it, they migrate towards it. Hence the success of Motion, and hopefully what will be the success of what God's doing with Purpose Driven, and just to be a part of that is such a privilege. It's just a privilege.
Yeah, it's awesome sometimes, isn't it?
It is, but it's humbling. It's very, very humbling. But if I say this, and I feel like I say it almost every show. If God did all of this, and because I have a day job, just like you do, right? I have a job, but this has been encompassing for me. And what I've said is, if and I know that it's reached numerous people, but I've said if it helps one person get into recovery or stay sober, or and it has, then it's all worth it. It's all worth it. And it's up to God. I mean, it's just up to God to do with it as he sees fit. So.
And I'm grateful that we can use technology to reach those people.
Right.
Because like you said, if it helps one person, and I've had numerous messages of people message me and said, your post is exactly what I needed to hear.
You have no idea how much I needed to hear this right now. Isn't that cool when you hear that?
Exactly.
Oh, man.
And at 3:38 in the morning, when I'm scrolling through all of my saved posts from the last 7 years, and I just happened to find this one and be like, yeah, that's good. That's good. That one resonates with me. And for somebody to message me and say, this is exactly what I needed to hear. This is what I'm going through. Thank you.
And it's like, go,
You know,
God, go.
and it's worth it. That's part of me giving back when, you know, if I'm working full time, I can't necessarily give back the way that I want to give back.
Right.
And so this is my way of my service work.
Contributing, to the solution. And the beautiful part about Motion too is that it's not geared just towards in any way, shape, or form people in recovery. It's just life, man. Life just beats the shit out of everybody. We all need encouragement. We all need hope. We all get in despair and get in our heads and our feels, and we need to be reminded that we're not alone, that we're not in control. And we don't have to carry, so many times you hear people say, gosh, I'm just so tired. And it's like, yeah, you're tired because you're carrying around all kinds of shit that doesn't belong to you.
Yes.
All of the things that you think you have control over and you don't, you just put them down. So just
you're trying to drive in all 4 lanes when you just need to stay in your own lane.
Or get in the bicycle lane, for God's sakes, or something like that. I mean, my goodness. But
or
just
pull over and take a nap.
Amen. Or just the simple reminder of like, oh, and I still need that all day, every day. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. That's why I'm feeling like shit. It's because I'm trying to control whatever situation. And just a
Right.
small reminder like that I see that that you post it just kind of snaps you back into reality, and gives you the peace again. Maybe just peace, and that's all I ever wanted. That's all I ever wanted in my worst of worst times, seizures and all. It's like I just want peace.
Simple. I wanted simplicity.
Yeah, I wanted to be okay.
My sick mind made everything so fetching complicated, and I just wanted simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's work to keep things simple. We hear that a lot. Keep it simple.
Funny?
Well, it takes work to keep things simple.
Because
sometimes you have to tell somebody and point way over there and say, you know what, it's Quint. That's where you go take your bullshit.
Right.
Because I'm not having it in my life.
Right. Boundaries.
And that takes work. That takes effort. That takes courage to tell someone that, listen, I'm not going to have this in my life. My life is simple today, and your bullshit is not simple.
Right.
So I can love you, but I can love you from way over there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's a complicated little life, Mr. Chris, I'll tell you.
It is. It can be.
But I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful that we have a solution that we can lean into and find that peace that so many people are dying to find, literally.
Yes, killing themselves trying to find it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fill that God-shaped hole. Mm-hmm. Well, I am so grateful to you for joining me and just sitting down and talking to me. I think you're fabulous. And
thank you. And I appreciate your show. I appreciate what you're doing, and thank you very much for having me on.
Well,
it's been a pleasure.
This
has been fun.
We need to do that. We need to do this again. We're talking about doing a round table soon, getting a couple of people together and
yes.
Drawing topics out and talking, just kind of life topics that can help everybody. And
that would be awesome. I'd be honored to come back on here again.
That would be amazing. You enjoy the rest of your day, and we will talk soon.
Thank you, and thank you again for having me on. I appreciate you.
My pleasure, sir. God bless you.
God bless you.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to Purpose Driven Sobriety. Thanks for listening to Purpose Driven Sobriety. Keep coming back.